care, ref. That she got the ball. Yes, good morning, Tottenham fans worldwide, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur for your pre-match build-up as we look ahead to Tottenham versus Bournemouth today. And if Tottenham can win, we keep a 100% record heading into the first international break. When was the last time we could say that? And of course, to get through the next 2 hours, we have an absolute star-studded panel. We've even pulled one out from the graveyard. It's great to have him back. Marcelo, how are you keeping, my man?
I'm doing good, David. Glad to be back, bro. Thank you for having me. Spurs is back, European champions. I'm just glad. I'm a blessed man.
Well, look, European champion, and, it looks like the swagger's continuing on, especially within the team. And, it was good to have a nice catch-up with you beforehand as well. But, look, we'll get straight into it, and then I'll bring up some of the comments as we go along. But, Marcelo, we'll kick off with you, and then we'll go around the house. But Tottenham completed the signing of Xavi Simons from RB Leipzig for a fee of 60 million euros. He'll wear the number 7 shirt with a long-term contract, 5 years plus 2-year option. I mean, how excited are you by this signing, and how excited should Spurs fans be?
You know what, David? You know what Spurs fans need to say first? Food chain, bro. S- Yeah, Chelsea, bro. Food chain, buddy. We took your boy, bro. That was, oh my goodness, what a signing this kid is. You know what? Sometimes things just work out the way they were meant to be, David. Xavi Simons was meant to play for Spurs. It was never meant to be Eze. It was never meant to be Morgan Gibbs White. This is like it's like the sun deja vu signing, bro. When we didn't get our target and we got Sonaldo, and then look what a legend he became. He became our number 7. Xavi, he's gonna become our number 7, bro. This kid, he's he's been in already top clubs. He's got top goals. He's been in big games, important games. He's felt the pressure, you know, and he's only 23. He hasn't even reached his potential yet, bro. So this signing it's a generational signing, guys. We got to get excited for this. This guy could be the next figure of our club. When you look at our club's, merchandise, he could be the head of it for the next 4 or 5 years.
Interesting. Look, no doubt about it. I think the signing has sort of galvanized the fans. I think that there's not really many fans out there that are too disappointed with this signing. Generational. Look, the guy's been spoken about being, an emerging talent, and everyone's been well aware of this kid since he's about 13 years of age. He's always been tipped for greatness. I mean, over to you, Drew. I was about to call you Soren there by mistake, but do you agree with Marcelo? Is this a generational signing?
Well, obviously, seeing as Drew's on.
My bad. I mean, when he puts it like that, it's certainly possible, right? The age, the fact, where he's come from. He was really, really highly thought of in Barcelona. He was the captain of every team, I think, at youth level. PSV did all right, but had the 3 big guns in front of him, so didn't really get the chance. Went over to Holland, absolutely ripped it up. Went to Germany, ripped it up. He's only 22, 23 years old. I mean, the stars are all kind of aligning for him to, he could potentially. It's all about him getting his head down, which I think, by the sounds of it, in the interviews that he's had recently or the last couple of days that I've seen, he looks like he's got a decent head on his shoulders, family values, all that, which everyone loves, ticks a box, doesn't it, when you talk about the family? So yeah, man, I'm excited. Can't wait. It's gonna be good. The one thing I am concerned about, but it's a really, really small concern. There's been a couple of times in his career where he's kind of, I don't want to say had the right attitude. I think he thinks very highly of himself, and I think to get where you need to in this sort of game, you have to have a certain level of, I guess, arrogance. But I'm sure he's sort of matured. We got Mickey van der Ven in the back, Dutch boys keeping it real. So yeah, really, really looking forward to it. It's a shame it wasn't a month ago, so we haven't seen him for a couple of games already. But for real, Marcelo hit the nail on the head. Like, we fell upwards. Like, if I guess you look back now, hindsight's obviously a wonderful thing, but he was probably above the other 2, but he was probably considered unattainable, especially when you think that he'd already sort of had personal terms with Chelsea agreed somewhat. They decided to dilly-dally. They had other things, and we swooped in and said, you know what? You're actually quite important to us, so if you'd like to join us, we can have you. And he said yes. So, I mean, that's perfect for me.
One word you said there, unattainable. And I think, when most Spurs fans were maybe put them forward over the course of the window, I think that's something that absolutely most Spurs fans would have replied with. Look, we ain't getting Xavi Simons. There's no way. So I think, the board deserve a lot of credit for getting it over the line. And to be honest with you, a lot of credit for actually putting themselves in the same situation they did with Eze. But, it looks like they've learned from that one and, they've managed to pull Xavi Simons over the line. So fair play to them in that one. I think you're right. The word is unattainable, and I think that's why many Spurs fans are sitting here in disbelief.
Well, we got this stupid Goldilocks zone, Dave, where players are either, that one's too hot or that one's too cold. Like we can, he's too big for us. We can't go for him, but this one's not good enough. And it's like, I don't know, we're in this weird belt. And I guess, a week ago, he was in this bracket of unattainable, or, he was in the we can't get him as opposed to we don't want him.
Well, I would have even said Kudus and Paulinho. Me coming into the window, I would have said unattainable, definitely not getting them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So look, the players that we have delivered, fair play. They've been players that we badly needed. Yep. Yeah. Let's hopefully the board don't stop here, and let's hope they kick on. I just want to take this big up. Moondog, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. He says, I really think we will do something this season. Do you know what, man? The last few nights, like the other night I woke up at 2:30 and Marcelo was on Twitter Spaces, talking about Xavi Simons. And then last night, again, I sort of woke up at some point. I was just sitting there, I'm thinking, do you know what? If we get just one or two more signings in the door, of a certain level,
we can
no reason why we can't really kick on, because our biggest problem, like Tottenham don't hire bad managers. Our biggest problem is we just don't do good recruitment to match up with these managers. But it looks like, this summer we're getting a lot of it right. And I do hope that we see the rewards of it this season and that we can do something magical, because then it will show Daniel Levy that you buy the right players, winning trophies is a lot easier. So big up, Moondog. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. And we've also got go on.
And to add to that, David, we also have the foundation with the youth. You know what I mean? We don't even need to invest on the youth. We already got the Bergvalls, the Grays, the Matistels coming in, the Oderbirds. So now we can just focus on kind of just setting up this team and spine. You know what I mean? Once we set up the spine, the youth and the project, bro, it's just gonna grow.
Yeah. No, 100%. And look, that's what this project was missing. I think we've done the squad arse ways. You should always bring in your quality players and then sprinkle it with talent. However, we brought in the talent, but look, at the end of the day, I think now you're bringing in quality players. They've got players that they can learn off, and learn what they need to do to be able to get to that level as well. I think it's highly, highly important. Absolutely good point there. Big up, Moondog. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, lad. We've already got a song for Xavi Simons, Amy Winehouse. They tried to make me go to Chelsea. I said, no. Big up, DJ AK. Good to see you. And then we've got Dark Sung G. Who wants a gooner beggar like Eze? Xavi is better than Eze. I mean, Steve, are we being a bit salty here when it comes to Eberici Eze? Because beforehand, the whole fan base was very, very happy with Tottenham going after this guy. And to be honest with you, look, I'm not happy he's gone to Arsenal whatsoever. I'm one of them. I probably would have rather than Eze over Simons. But I'm not going to be bitter towards Eze at the end of the day. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's shite now and stuff like that. But how good of a signing do you think we've acquired here, Steve? And is there a player in recent Spurs history that Simons reminds you of, or is he something completely different that we haven't seen at Tottenham Hotspur yet?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen a center attacker quite like Xavi Simons in the last 20 years at Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, I think he's one of one. And the interesting thing about this is, I remember in the summer of 2024 watching him with the mighty Netherlands in the Euros that summer, just kind of thinking to myself, like, God damn, he would look really good in a Spurs shirt in an Ange Postecoglou attack. I was just kind of daydreaming, never necessarily really thinking that Spurs would ever be lining up to get a type of talent like this, because Xavi goes to Bayern Munich. Xavi goes to, either of the Milan clubs, or he goes to Spain, or he goes to one of a bigger club in England. because that's, that almost seems like it would be like the linear path for a guy like Xavi Simons. And sure enough, here we are literally like a year later, and all of a sudden he's wearing a number 7 shirt with a cockerel, with a cockerel on the chest. So, it's something that it's unbelievable to me, to be honest with you, because it's just, again, I never thought that Spurs would ever have the cachet to pull something like this off. And again, I think you hit it right on the head. You kind of almost have to give the board credit for this one, because they recognize their window. And they learn from the mistakes of Morgan Gibbs-White, and they learn from the mistakes of Eberechi Eze, understanding that, this window was like really only 12 hours long. And they understood that in order to get this over the line, they had to pay. They actually had to pay. And that, I would probably assume that made Daniel Levy uncomfortable, agreeing to not only a 5-year deal plus 2, but also making sure that he's going to get paid, the money that he absolutely is worth, which is, I think, is up to £200,000 a week. So, again, credit, because if they flinched, he would have went somewhere else. And that,
has anyone, sorry, just quickly, Steve, have you seen anywhere, or has anyone seen anywhere this deal like could potentially go up to like 120 million or something with everything? You're on mute, Dave. You're on mute. But yeah, with all the add-ons and everything, I was told 120 million last night.
I think that's with the wages as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that all in? Yeah,
That's
the
the whole
entire
package.
the entire package. So
yeah.
Big outlet.
And that's and quite honestly, that's exactly what you have to pay in order to get a dude like Xavi Simons through the door. Because again, he is a one-of-one type of talent. And the interesting thing about this is, and Sword and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like he's only 22, 23. Dude hasn't even hit his prime yet, and he's already one-of-one for his own national team, right? So it's an incredible signing, and this is something that is, with the interesting thing about Eze, he's already in his prime, and so you probably would understand that there's probably only going to be like maybe 3, maybe 4 years left of peak Eze, and depending on exactly what happens in that position will depend on whether or not he's going to be a starter or just a rotational player for a very good Arsenal team. Where Xavi Simons, you're going to get prime Simons for the 7 years, right? So, and when you look at the cost versus loss ratio, Spurs got the better end of this deal 10 times out of 10.
And look, the long-term contract also, if Xavi Simons comes good, I mean, Tottenham are protected, which means, they're not going to get picked off by the bigger clubs, or the player can't run down his contract to try and find a quick exit out of Tottenham Hotspur, so it's sort of like we've set ourselves up to a degree where we protected our investment and probably will get it back at some point if we opt to sell, or if he doesn't work out, which isn't.
I would imagine there's going to be a lot of Spurs shirts in Amsterdam over the next couple of years.
Oh, lad!
Yeah.
The Spurs shop today will be flat out. Everyone will be down there getting Simons on the back.
I'm getting the yellow one.
Are you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
A lot of people don't like that yellow one, the total 90 sort of one.
Yeah,
I love
It
it.
didn't get a great reaction online, did it?
Really, I love it. I think it's beautiful.
I really like it. It's a throwback. I like the old school crest on it, to be fair.
Yeah, me too.
Dark Song G says, before, if we missed our target, we go for players like Giovanni Lo Celso. No, absolutely spot on. And I think, again, something I praised the board for yesterday, which is a bit rare for me, but, they didn't get Morgan Gibbs-White. They didn't get Eze, but they didn't go and get an El Canous or players like that. They've pivoted, but it's been an acceptable pivot. Even for someone like me, it's sort of like, don't get me wrong, I didn't want young players in here. I always said, we need quality players. But when it comes to Xavi Simons, he's sort of a cross between, a medium that keeps me happy because he has so much experience at his age at the top level, but he's also still got a lot of scope to really improve. So it's sort of like a happy medium. But Soren, on to you, my man. I mean, hugely talented, highly rated, and only 22. Simons is still young, but he arrives with Champions League experience and big expectations. And I'm sort of trying to work out, am I expecting a guy to come in and hit the ground running, or am I expecting, give instant impact, or am I expecting a project signing that needs patience? What am I to expect?
I'm a bit confused. Have we signed somebody? Who have we signed? I've never heard of this kid before. I'm just going to Google it. Just give me 5 minutes.
I'd say Danny Rose is delighted. You didn't have to Google for once.
No, I think within a week or two he'll be ripping it up in the Premiership. He's obviously not playing today. Give him a little bit of chance, but this lad will hit the ground running, and I'm not sure potentially whether he'll play straight into the middle or whether he'll play left wing. I'm quite expecting him to play left wing probably to start with and keep the midfield three of Benton, Kersar and Paulinho. But it's an incredible signing. It's an absolute incredible signing. Nobody thought we could do it. Everybody thought, it's just going to be another waste of time. The meltdown in the Spurs community, the fact that we were even linked with him, never mind, we weren't going to get him. There was no chance. And then all of a sudden, 24 hours later, 48 hours later, the Spurs community is a happy place again. With probably most of us anyway. I think there's still one or two salty people out there, but it's just an amazing. It's just one of those feelings where you still sort of wake up in the morning 2 days later thinking, am I going to see something where it still hasn't happened, or it's been hijacked, or that we didn't get the right paperwork in, or he didn't really sign on it. The only thing I will say, if anybody's seen the video where he's walking onto the pitch, he has got a frigging blue screen phone thing. He needs to change that to a lily white. That is a Chelsea blue. We are not having this. This is absolutely disgraceful, Xavi.
I'm sure he'll be told.
He bloody will be. And if he ain't, he'll be watching this, obviously. He'll know now. So, now, look, absolutely buzzing with this signing. I think, like me and Steve were saying, and me and yourself, Dave, the other day, it's a long-term signing as well. And, people that are still whinging and moaning about Eze, get over it. We have got the better signing. This kid is far better than Eze. Eze is a fantastic player. He's at his level now. He's not going to get much better than he is now. Xavi is going to get better and better and better and better. I mean, in theory, he's 5 years away from his peak. Yeah. If we, by the time if he runs his 7 years out with us, he'll just be hitting his peak. Yeah. He'll be. I mean, how incredible is that? And the rest of the squad around him, your Bergvals, your Gray, your Udogi, your Van der Ven, your Odebears, your Tells. I mean, there is countless number of players that are all the same age. This squad is going to grow. It is going to get stronger. And the mighty Tottenham, we are the greatest team the world will ever see.
Look, he's the sort of player as well in years to come. If he reaches that potential, you build your team around. You can give him the ball, let him go and win you games. But Marcelo, I've seen players come before to the Premier League with huge price tag, huge reputation, huge expectation, and don't really sort of match that or really kick on. Do you think the pressure, the price tag, and the number 7 shirt, which he's picked up Sonny's number, by the way, will weigh heavily on the guy? Or do you think he's going to thrive off the back of it? What sort of mentality are we looking at here?
Well, you know what? This is a player that's been in PSG, Barcelona, Leipzig. He's been in big clubs, so he's felt pressure. Maybe this is probably going to be his biggest move in terms of, being in the Premier League, and he is going to be the star of this Spurs squad this season, I would say. So there's going to be pressure, and, listen, the Premier League is a different beast, in my opinion, and I think he could take a game or two, to really kick on. But his first game is West Ham, man, and I think he's gonna shine in that game, bro. I think that's the perfect game for him to start. I think he is gonna look great. Maybe he might not start with the goals and assists that we expect, but I think performance-wise, he's gonna come in and hit the ground running. And he's going to be effective, bro. The way I see the kid, he was ready to take the next step forward, and he just looks ready to take that step forward. You know what I mean? He just looks like a player that's ready to be a talisman of a club.
Yep.
And that's what we need, bro. And we need since Son left, I've been saying it. This window, we need a talisman, bro. We need a guy that's ready to take on that mental, and he looks ready. You know what I mean? Well, can we say, is he going to be a guaranteed success? No, nobody can say that. You know what I mean? In the Premier League.
I can say it.
I mean, to me, he's about as guarantee of a success as it can be. But you know how it is. Football is crazy, bro. But it's like this kid. This is a big signing. This is a big moment, and this is a big turning point for Spurs. This is. I can't remember us making a signing like this. Where
Right. Right.
like it
especially
genuinely
three of them.
it's surreal.
Yeah, especially three
He's
signings
a-
back to back that every Spurs fan has been happy with. It's quite rare, actually. Sorry, Steve, go on.
Yeah, he's the type of signing that matches the expectations of this club. And when you think when you think about the expectations that really started to emerge under Pochettino and then under Mourinho, Conte, Nuno, Ange, and the fact that every single year the expectations continue to ramp up, and then yes, we finally won the European trophy, and now the expectations are we got to kick on from that trophy and get to even higher heights. Xavi Simons is the type of signing that matches those expectations and then some. And then when you think about Kudus and you think about Polina and you think about the level of success this window has actually brought Spurs, that I don't understand how anybody can't just sit here and say that so far, this is the best window I think we've had in 20 years, 30 years.
A long time, and especially if they back it up. But we were discussing last night as well. It means better players will want to come to Tottenham Hotspur now. You're not going to have as much of a hard sell. The first few is always the hardest sell. After that, you got players that will want to come here and play with these guys and stuff like that, which makes our job easier in future markets. But look, one thing I really like about Xavi Simons is he's looked after his career. He was in the Barcelona academy, felt like he should be playing first team football. They didn't, so he says, right, I'm out, went to PSG, same sort of thing happened. So he ended up pushing for his move out to Holland, took the opportunity, got his move to Leipzig, and then he's took his opportunity there and he's made his way to the Premier League. I've seen many, kids in years gone by have to sit at these academies and wait, and the opportunity never comes. Whereas this guy says, no, I'm good enough to get out there and play now. And I like the fact that he's looked after his career and he's backed himself, which shows he's hugely confident. And a player like that will always have a chance of making the adaptation to the Premier League if he keeps that same belief. I'm just still trying to work out, am I going to expect the guy, to sort of warm his way into things, or I'm expecting, like Kudos straight away in bam end product. Let's wait and see. I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid. A couple of chats here from Dark Sung G, and then I have a couple more follow-up questions on this kid. Dark Sung G says Eze won his final trophy at Palace like Rice did with West Ham, which he's saying basically they ain't going to win anything at Arsenal, so they can kiss their laden trophy spell goodbye. Big up Dark Sung G. And he also follows up and says City got Shirky, Liverpool got Verts, and we got Xavi. Yeah, look, I mean, look, there's, I suppose when you put it like that, there is our marquee signing, when you stack it up against the others. Who do you think's got the better one there, Dark Sung G? Let me know. Big yourself up. J-Mac says, not being salty because we missed out, but Simons is better than Eze and Morgan Gibbs-White. Phil says, looking forward to the Xavi Simons songs from James Black. Absolutely. I love his work. Skunk Work says he is confident as F. He will love that shirt. And then J-Max says Dutch players have a swagger and arrogance, confidence. They were born with it. So in my opinion, he'll cope. Look, they're usually very laid-back people, the Dutch, so what I will say is there will be a lot that probably will not affect them mentally or personality, or affect his personality and stuff like that for sure. I just hope he doesn't get caught up in the rat race of London and the lifestyle that it provides, because that's where your career can go downhill big time. But guys, I do want to talk about where we actually see Simons fitting in. Like Thomas Frank praised Simons for his versatility, creativity, pressing ability, and his goal and assist production from the number 10 and the left wing roles. I mean, where do you think he will have the most impact in this Spurs team? And anyone can come in on this. It's an open question, guys.
I think, in my opinion, just the flair, and also just the quality. You know what I mean? He's a player that can really do it all. He can create, he can score, he can dribble. And I think a player like that, he sets a standard that other players look at. It was like with Harry Kane when
Yeah.
Mourinho was in. He said, what was it? Vertonghen was the leader, and the captain sort of guy. But Kane set the standards for what everybody wanted to achieve, and that's what Xavi Simons will do, bro. When he comes in and he's playing the way he is playing, other players will look at him at Spurs and be like, "That's how we got to play. That's the standard."
No,
I think
100%. And look, when you got players like that as well, you've got players that are excited to play with him, and hopefully a couple of players that can learn off him, and he can help drag them up maybe a level or two. Where do we think he's going to fit in? Because I think we've sort of been sold this as he's coming in as our number 10. But I'll be honest, I'm not sure Frank's going to break up that midfield for him, to be honest. I think, I don't know how Drew feels about this, but right now I'm thinking Brennan Johnson's spot right now, personally.
Yeah, I mean,
until that midfield maybe sort of goes through a bad spell.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed it last night briefly, and I posed this question to Steve, and then I went and did some digging around. It looks like, as far as RB Leipzig is concerned, they're saying that, according to the stats that I was looking at, that most of the time it was left wing.
75%.
Then I watched, but then I watched videos, and it's basically him picking up the ball in the centre of midfield, drifting out to the right, playing through balls left with his right foot, or coming in from the right side of the box. So I don't actually know. I mean, at this very moment in time, if you'd have told me to take the Manchester City team, tell me that's what's playing tomorrow, and tell me to take out a player and put Xavi in, Simons in, then probably, yeah, I'm taking out Johnson. He's going on the left, and I'm taking the three in midfield as they were. But in an ideal world, what I'd really like to do is probably, I'm having a hard time dropping Sarr at the moment. You know how I feel about Bentancur. Even though Bentancur has been doing really well, I would potentially look to take out Bentancur, put Paulinho and Sarr next to each other, put Xavi in the 10, and then get an actual left winger. And then I think we're cooking at that point.
Taking out Bentancur in the midfield, though, do you not lose that ball player of the midfield? Because, to be honest with you, I think Bentancur is so elegant in there. I think he makes football look beautiful. I think he makes it look easy. And you sort of lose that guy who transitions to play. Like, Paulinho is the guy who breaks it up, but Bentancur is the guy who sort of gets on the ball and transitions it. You're not putting yourself, and he's the one that
sorry, I should caveat. I mean, I'm specifically talking about the game tomorrow. Sorry. Oh. So we're talking about Bournemouth, right? So I would...
Today.
Today rather. God, yeah, because it's Saturday. Because we play on Saturdays and Wednesday now, boys.
Yeah.
Sorry. For today's game, I would maybe think if he'd been available today. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a really hard time with the Paulinho, Bentancur, Sarr thing, because I think all three of them, it's really hard to drop them. So I mean, you play him off the left, you keep Sarr in the 10, but then I just don't know that. I don't know how long that lasts. We've gotten away with Sarr being in the 10. It's been great. I just, when you've just gone out and bought arguably one of the best 10s in Europe, you've got.
I agree with you in that regard. I think right now, though, while it's working, I don't think he breaks up that midfield, but I think there will be an opportunity where one of them maybe slack off, and that's where you sort of move Xavi Simons then into the middle off the left-hand side. I think that's the way it's going to go. I think he'll initially come in here and play off the left, and then when that midfield maybe starts getting into, maybe isn't as robust or isn't dictating games as much, then I think you maybe see Xavi Simons slowly being moved into that number 10. But right now, I'm not sure Frank is going to break that up.
The one thing I will say, lastly, the one thing that stood out with everything that I saw on the videos that I watched, this dude has got next to no backlift in his kick, and yet somehow manages to produce so much power at times. It's almost like he doesn't have to break stride. Like, it's literally half the amount of actually kicking movement. But I don't know.
Technically, the guy's superb all around.
Unreal, Dave. Unreal. Like, I've not seen anybody strike a ball like him in a minute, to be honest.
The way he strikes it, what I was really impressed with as well is him on the half turn. When he gets the ball, they always say that a great forward player is always on the half turn looking to receive that ball so that he can get going and go at the back line. And Xavi Simons is unbelievable on the half turn. No matter how many players around him, who's around him, he gets that ball on the half turn, and with his first touch, he takes them out of the game. And I think that's going to be very, very exciting to watch. It's almost like what Kudos does at times as well.
There's a player up the road. There's a player up the road. There was a player up the road that used to play for that lot, who I never mention online, as you well know. and I don't want to mention the guy's name either. So I'll say that he reminds me of if Modric was an attacker. He's an attacking midfield version of Modric, as opposed to like maybe more of a sitting one. Like that's where I get vibes of. Like you said, with the half turn, with the fact that he can just all of a sudden he's like gone. Yeah, for sure.
But one thing about the kid as well is, and the reason why I think you will slowly see him maybe transition into that number 10 is Papa Matasar, although he's not your traditional number 10, he turns over a lot of ball, which leads to goals. He's been involved in nearly every goal this season, Papa Matasar. And it's his work rate that is helping him thrive in that number 10 right now. But Xavi Simons, you go and look at what the PSV Eindhoven coaches had to say about him. You look at the amount of turnovers he had high up the pitch in the final third in the Bundesliga last season as well. He had one of the highest. This guy works incredibly hard out of possession as well, which is absolutely key to what Thomas Frank is trying to do. In years gone by, we've had players who thought they were so good they didn't have to try a leg out of possession. Whereas this guy, he's got the talent, but he's also got the work ethic to go with it. And that's why I think this kid will succeed and push on, because talent on its own is not enough to take you to the top level. You have to have hard work with it, and this guy has that in abundance. And if he's going to work as hard as Papa Matasar in possession, technically he's going to be a lot better than Papa Matasar. So I think that's why eventually you will see him transition into that role in the near future, and that's one thing I didn't take into account when we signed Kudus. I was sitting there talking about the attack of flair, how fun it's going to be. That guy works his fucking sack off getting back there, helping Pedro Porro. This is what's helping us keep clean sheets. This is what's helping us, protect our back line, is these players getting back. It's absolutely crucial. At times last season, players, when they were sort of just dribbled by and they didn't really have the heart or the effort to really get back, and stuff like that. Whereas what you're seeing now under Thomas Frank, the whole lot of them are willing to fucking work their nuts off to get backwards. And then when they do get the ball, they enjoy possession a lot more, which is absolutely great to see. I do want to, anyone else want to come in and say where this is playing?
Yeah. I was gonna say that J-Mac kind of took the words right out of my mouth, because when you look at the way that Red Bull Leipzig actually plays, he's almost a high plains drifter. He just occupies the right amount of space, whether it's on the right or the left, and why he almost comes off looking like a winger is because he's absolutely world class on both feet, not just in terms of goals, but also assists as well too. But when you actually break down his GA, his best position is actually, as far as the numbers are concerned, is right there centrally. But that being said, he's also no slouch on the wings as well too, because again, he just has the ability just to occupy the right amount of space, skin defenders with ease to put balls into the box. And so me personally, not only is this the right signing, but he makes everybody on the pitch that much better. Everyone, right? So, just imagine, regardless of where Thomas Frank deploys him, just imagine Richarlison or Kudus or Johnson, or, you name that player, and all of a sudden now all of a sudden you have a guy who not only can play anyone on the ball, but Richie as a fox in the box is going to absolutely get pinpoint balls into the box in order to put the ball in the back of the net. Holy shit! Like when I take myself away from the motion and just think about this in isolation, like this is an unbelievable player.
Yeah, I mean the thing is with him, for me, he's kind of got to start on the left at the moment. As good as he is, probably central, the weakest spot we've got at the moment is left. So by default, if you put him on the left and basically give him almost that free roll, say, look, drifting, and then let Jed Spence go up on the outside of him, you've got the perfect.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I mean,
sort of the way Sonny used to work for years, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing about that's the thing about Simmons, guys. It's not just about the left and the middle. He is so class. You can just put him anywhere up there, bro. He's gonna like he's that good. I'm telling you.
The thing is, if you've got him cutting in from the left and running across that box, if you watch what Simmons does well, he can shoot from outside the box, and he has got a shot on him. And that is something we have not seen for the last 2, 3, 4 years. Those shots from outside the box, we've been missing it because everybody knows we're going to put the ball in the box somewhere. We're going to play around you and try and put the ball in the box. You suddenly have a player that will take a pot shot. Porro does it now and again.
Sarr
he does have that missile.
All of a sudden, you've got somebody who who will score a lot of goals from outside the box. And if you've got that running in, and then you've got Richie getting in the box, you've all of a sudden got 2 or 3 different outlets that we haven't had for a long, long time.
Correct.
Absolutely spot on with the goals outside the box. That's something that Son used to provide, and that's what made us so dangerous. We had players that could do everything in the box, but Son was always a threat outside the box, and sometimes you do rely on his running strike to win a game.
Dave, if you watch Sonny, it wasn't really outside the box. It was just inside the box from the corner sort of thing. Whereas Simmons will shoot from outside the box. But the difference is as well, you've actually got a player, for once, I mean, obviously Kudos isn't so bad neither now, but you've got another player that can run with the ball. And he's not afraid to run with the ball. And you'll see him run across the box. You'll see him run down the side. You'll see him run all over the place. And you like with Brennan Johnson, you kind of know what he's going to do. He's going to run so far, then he's going to cut in. Kulachevsky, run so far and cut in. With Simmons, you haven't got a clue what he's going to do because he can do it all. And that's the difference, that you've got a guy that is actually talented with running with the ball, shooting, and he can pass to where it's meant to go, not behind the player.
Well, what I like about him as well is he can beat you on the left or he can beat you on the right. He can go either way. And like to your point, with Johnson and Kulusevski, sometimes they are very predictable in what they want to do. And that's what made Son so good for years. If they did try to block him up from cutting in on his right foot, he said, no problem, I'll go on the outside and, I'll kill you that way, So, and I think that's what Xavi Simons does bring. But also bringing him in just provides a bit more strength and depth in the midfield, but also in the wide options, with the one player. It means Papa Matasar then can be freed up to alleviate a Bentancur or a Paulini. It means that Johnson can get rest when he needs it. Kudos can get rest when he needs it as well. So all in all, it's a good signing in that regard. But I do want to bring up one more question on Xavi Simons, and then we will move on. I just want to take a couple more comments here. First, we've got Eltel in the house. Big up, Jose, outside the ground having a pre-match lunch in the Spur restaurant. Can't wait for the unveiling of our jewel. 3 points. Come on, you Spurs, but we're going to get onto the unveiling now in just a moment. Big up, Jose. Make sure you enjoy your day out at the Spurs ground, my man. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Finn Rickwood, big up, lads. Great to see Marcelo on shows again. OG of Spurs YouTube channels. Yeah, honestly, I was buzzing when he said yes to me as well. It was absolutely brilliant. Buzzing.
I'm so happy to be back
in the chat today, lad.
I've been seeing it, and you know what, guys, I appreciate all the love. I remember, Dark Sun G, just everybody back in the day, bro. When it was just me and you, David, with like 5 people in the chat, and just seeing you now, bro. It's awesome. You deserve it, bro. And it's only gonna go upwards. You know what I mean?
Hopefully,
this is a roller coaster ride that only goes upwards, bro. There's no, we're gonna. It's going to be awesome, bro.
You know what one I still remember to this day, and I still have a chuckle? Remember when you went on to the Weird Tottenham TV fan cam and you ripped up the fucking Arsenal player on the page? You just started eating.
It was the Arteta picture.
Legendary. Yeah. Oh, man, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And Ribsy also says, did not have Marcelo crotch cam on my 25, 26.
I'm sorry. I did it. As soon as I saw it, I moved it up. My bad, guys. It's a new setup, my bad. Apologies.
Lay off him, he's got a missus in bed, so he has to, go into the living room to be able to do this. So lay off him. Big up, Ribs. Good to see you, and hopefully you're keeping well. We've got Mr. The Bud 74. Good morning, Dave, and the boys. Game day, 3 points. Go into the break, get us a left wing, and we can enjoy the break for once. I mean, it would be absolutely lovely to head into the break with no problems. It'd be fantastic. I could get so much more done in my personal life. Josh says, evening all. Hope you're all well. Good to see you, Josh, from down under. Hopefully you're keeping well, buddy. And Dark Song G also says, Marcelo, it's great that we don't have 70% deadwood. I mean, we really did go through it back then.
Oh, my goodness, bro. It was a struggle, just seeing the Eric Dyers. Oh. But you know what, bro?
Romero Van de Ven. Fuck me, our life has changed.
Our lives have changed, bro. We got some serious ballers back at Spurs, man. That's what I'm trying to, tell people. We got the Bergvalls. Some of these players have not even reached their ceiling yet, guys. You know what I mean? That's what what I mean. They're just like little babies in the football world that are still growing, bro. They're still taking their steps, and I'm telling you, when these kids they start running and they start going, you're gonna see a whole new Spurs. Exactly what Ange said to Madison. You know what I mean? You're gonna see a whole new Spurs.
But also having that defensive platform that Frank has in the
Mhm.
field allows these guys to shine, which is
Mhm.
absolutely
Just
crucial.
a brick wall defense. That
Yeah.
Vendeven, Romero, just nasty, bro. They go at you. I
And the amount
love
of
it.
time the midfield and the back line keep turning over the ball, keep feeding these guys. It's going to be very, very exciting to watch.
It's
Beautiful.
For sure.
It's amazing. It's amazing watching this team that, even in the midst of what happened last season, you kind of knew there was talent on this roster. And it's amazing what one coaching change does to bring out the very best in the strengths of this team. It's impressive. It's been so impressive to watch.
Nah, has. I do want to get on to the unveiling though today, guys. I think everyone's expecting, Xavi Simons to walk out at half time. Hopefully it's a colder walkout than what Eze done for Arsenal. And look, obviously going to get a good reception of fans, but maybe a little bit of a discussion here that maybe I think it's a good conversation to have. How important is that initial connection between fans and players? Does a big welcome matter in building that bond early, or am I making too much of it? Because for me, if you're walking out at stadium at halftime and you've got 60,000 people there cheering you on, clapping for you and stuff like that, I mean, I think it does build a connection where you sort of like, right, I need to repay these fans, straight from the off. Because too many times have I seen Spurs players come here sort of disrespect the fans or not really build that rapport. So I just want to have a conversation around how important that initial connection is between fans and player.
I would.
Anyone?
Oh, go on.
No, go on. Go on.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I would say it's very important. I mean, none of us on this panel probably know what that feeling is like walking in front of 60, 70,000 people that are actually singing your name. We've been in the stadium, we've been in the crowd singing it, and I mean, it makes the hairs on your body stand up. So the fact that it's going to, if you're the player walking out and it's to you, but we saw it, when he walked into the empty stadium and he was like, wow, you look how high it is, look how big it is. He does not know what it's going to be like. Dave, you're on mute, I think.
Oh, no, I'm just giving DJ the big up.
I don't think he knows what he's going to walk into today if that crowd is there and they are, especially if we're actually winning as well. I mean, that'll be even better as long as we're not getting thrashed at that point. But it's going to be an incredible moment for him. And, again, he's a young lad. Yeah, he's played for some big, big teams, and he's come from a German league where some of the crowds are, really hostile and the noise. But you walk into a stadium that is going to be your home for the next 5 to 7 years, and you get into that crowd who are up for seeing you, who are so excited to see you. It's going to be an amazing moment for him, and hopefully that's the moment it'll hit him when he realizes he's come to the right club in London, the only club in London. And like we keep saying, when he walks past that European trophy, that is a current European trophy, and sees what the club is hopefully going forward to be. And let's not underestimate by the end of this season, when we're still European champions, going into next season. But yeah, it'll be an amazing moment for him, I'm sure.
No, I think it will. Marcelo, you also wanted to come in as well and have your say on it?
Yeah, to me, it's all about making a big signing feel like a big signing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can say something's big, you can say, oh, it's big, but if the event is not big, bro, it doesn't feel big. But if you have Xavi Simons, like you said, David, in front of 60,000 Spurs fans, just singing his name, just singing his praises, he's gonna come in this club and he's gonna realize right off the bat how big we are. Right off the bat, and it's going to feel like a big signing because it is a big signing. And we need moments like this because this is what Barcelona does, bro. This is what Real Madrid does. This is what big clubs do. You announce these big signings, you make them feel big, because they have egos, and you got to also fill that ego to motivate them, to show them like, hey, this is what you're here for, bro. You're here to play for this, And it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait, bro. I'm so excited.
but you want to capture the momentum of it, right? I mean, it's one thing.
Exactly.
It's one thing to have the the initial press conference and unveil the jersey. All of that's fantastic, but you also want to get them out in front of the South Stand, get them in front of the supporters as quickly as possible, because there is also still the lingering protests, right? So if you're a club like Spurs and understanding there's still some BS with some of the supporters, you want to drown that out as quickly as possible, right? This is the new day in Tottenham Hotspur, right? So you want to capture that momentum as so quickly as you can. 100%.
And I think Marcelo's absolutely spot on when he says sort of like make them feel like a big sign. It's what Barcelona do. It's what Real Madrid does. And I can't remember the last time we've had a player being unveiled at the stadium in front of 60,000 people. It's going to be absolutely insane to watch. And, something that you could look back on in years to come and going, that was the moment, this guy arrived, and look how much he's transformed this club. Look at the silverware we've got in the cabinet.
Yeah.
But I think you're absolutely spot on in terms of making them feel like a big-time player, a real big sort of capture, make him feel like a star almost. I think you're absolutely spot on. Big up Martin's Nightbridge. Honestly, the way YouTube has done all this lately, I don't know, it's fucked me up. We used to know everybody's names when they come in, and now it's all usernames and stuff like that. So it's hard, but keep letting me know who you are, and I will remember. I do have a good memory in that regard. But guys, there's over 500 people watching. If you are enjoying the show, please smash that like button. Really helps me out in the algorithm. It's basically David versus Goliath. I am David, so you can help me beat Goliath. And guys, feel free to get your questions in and stuff like that. And if you want to throw support, you can do that, or grab yourself a channel membership and come on fan shows and have discussions and all that good jazz. But does anyone else want to get anything else off their chest about Xavi Simons before we move on and talk about today's game?
I was just the only thing that we mentioned there when you said about unveiling players. The only reason we don't unveil players is because it's usually usually we don't buy players, or it's so late in the window that they're ready to start for the team. It just so happens that this time we've bought a player that's not quite ready for a game, so we get to unveil him. I mean, it's cool. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. It'll be rousing in the stadium. But let's in an ideal world, it would have been done 3 weeks ago and he'd already had his debut.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. But if they were to unveil him at half time, some people are saying it. I think Rooty Toot said it'll happen before the game. But if they were to do it at halftime, you think fans are still going to the bar? Or do you think they're standing out waiting to get a glimpse of the new guy?
I think they're going to the bar, and I think the powers that be know that if they try and do it at halftime, then there'll be a conflict of how much money they'll be able to make at the bars, because people will be staying in their seats to wait for the player. So I think they'll do it before the game. I think they'll do that to ensure capitalizing on a drink at halftime to celebrate the fact that they saw him at the beginning.
That's very true. Daniel Levy's probably calculated that. You're absolutely spot on.
Exactly. There's a special signing in the cheese room. Xavi Simons.
Renegade says, me and my son driving to the game right now. Can't wait to see Simons and the team. Come on, you Spurs. P.S. Love the channel. Big up, Renegade. You know what? I always love seeing father and son going to football games together. I really love it. Like, my father gave me the gift of football and the gift of Tottenham Hotspur. We've been to many games together and stuff like that. So, I love to see the father sort of pass on that tradition to the kid, and the kid taking up that tradition. So big up, Renegade. Hopefully you just go enjoy yourselves and we can get a big win today, my man. But look, let's get on and talk about today's game. I mean, again, we'll come back to you, Drew. I mean, Spurs come into this game coming off the back of a 2-0 win at the Easy had. I mean, how do we avoid complacency today? Because I think that's one thing that where Tottenham have shot themselves in the foot in years gone by. We can pull off results against a big team, but it's the game after that where we usually sort of just have an anticlimax.
Yeah, no, you're right. Just sorry, one thing, because it's happening right this second. The Chelsea-Fulham game, the goal got ruled off. They did a VAR check, and the referee spoke on a microphone to the crowd to tell them why the goal had been disallowed. Has that just been introduced?
Oh yeah, no, that happened in the Newcastle-Liverpool game when they sent off Gordon as well. And
they're actually now announcing it like they would in American football.
Yeah, basically it's an idea to try and so that the crowd in the stadium know what's going on.
That's happy days. I didn't realize they'd implemented that. That's kind of awesome. I like that. Whether I'm sure the VAR. I'm sure it sounds like VAR was still wrong, but the fact that they're now announcing, brilliant.
As long as they're adding this, as long as they're genuinely adding this time on at the end of games, right. I'm okay with it. My thing is, if the guy's standing there taking 5 minutes and they add on 2 minutes at the end of the game, that's where it's going to drive me absolutely insane.
Insane. Yeah, I feel you. Right.
Can you imagine one of them coming on there? Sorry, can you imagine one of them coming on and saying, "Sorry, we've ruled it out because it goes against me betting"? Yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan. I can't allow this goal. Sorry.
Yeah, right. So yeah, as far as obviously the kind of the rebound thing, this whole sort of win, lose, draw, or win, draw, lose. So, it's that consistency that we really want to get. I've got to say, I've been really, really impressed with Thomas Frank. The more I see him, the more impressed I am. The last press conference, fantastic again. The last couple of years are a bit of an anomaly, right? We're not going to go over it too much. Don't want to go into any detail. It was just weird. Somehow terrible, yet somehow we got something out at the end of it. But I don't think I'm having a real hard time being able to reference what I was seeing last year to what I'm seeing this year. It's like night and day. And I remember talking to you, Dave, back end of last year, and saying that, once Ange had gone and we just hired Frank, saying that, in part, we might just get better because some of the players are just going to be asked to do more traditional things within their roles. Like the system we were trying to play was I just think it was too much for the players that we had, or it was too much of an idealized philosophy. And I just don't know that everybody kind of bought into it. And it just seemed so disjointed. Right. And there was just too many goals in transition. And it was there was so many things. And we were all standing there screaming. You could just see so many things that were wrong. And in the 3 games, and I know it's only 3 games. I know it's only, really kind of PSG before the season started and the 2 league games, because the rest of it was just getting fitness in legs. But even last week, one thing I was watching in particular was Brennan Johnson. And Brennan Johnson is getting pelters in the chat because I think just because he's Brennan Johnson and because people have clouded vision, that because it's Brennan Johnson, but people in the chat felt the need to go, Brennan Johnson do nothing again, this, that, and the other. And the kid was staying, especially defensively, staying perfectly in his shape. It was 4-2-3-1. You had the 2 behind him in the bank of 3, and he was moving with the 3. He was doing everything he needed to. When the ball went out to his player, he was shuffling and he was stretching the pitch like he needed to. And everyone's going, "Oh, Johnson's doing nothing." And yet when it went over to the other side and Kudus was mirroring exactly that in the defensive shape, nobody said anything about it. So I just...
True. You seem to forget most of these people do play Championship Manager, so they know what they're talking about.
What I will say is, I actually praised Johnson last week. I don't think Johnson's performance last week is the one to beat him with. I think, I've seen that kid do things that I've been screaming at him to do. In fairness to him, I thought, he had a better game. He was a lot more involved in the game than what he usually is, to be fair.
Right. Just
playing down that left-hand side with Spence behind him means he doesn't have to get back. Spence is so good one-on-one defensively. You can keep Johnson higher up the pitch. He doesn't. Yeah. It's not like on the right-hand side where he has to get back and help Porro, because Porro needs that help. Spence doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, the point I was making was more to do with, I think the Frank has just instilled something in this team whereby I can actually see a cohesive shape now. I see players in traditional positions doing traditional things, and also not doing things that risk the team being out of shape. I don't know. It's just night and day in terms of coaching, and that's not. I'm not really not trying to
look more organized.
Look entirely more organized. Listen, we look like an organism. We look like an organism where things are breathing off of each other, and I just wasn't seeing that.
I get exactly. So good.
Yeah, we said this last season, though, and the season before that. We don't know what Ange was telling him to do, or other players. So
that's exactly right.
If he's been told to stay forward and not defend, I mean, we all sat here on these shows and complained he wasn't defending, but we don't know what Ange was telling him. Now,
I don't want to get caught up too much on Johnson, because I was just using him as an example, right?
Yeah.
It's not. This wasn't about what Johnson does do or doesn't do. This was about me looking at the shape of the team.
Yeah.
Well, but for sure. But like, just him as an example, and just, you know, any part of that team as an example, they were moving as one. It just looked more organized. And to go back to your point, Dave, I think that is what is going to help us overcome win, lose, draw, win, lose, draw, win, lose, draw, or win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. Because that's what it was last year. There wasn't even draws, right? It was win, lose, lose, win, lose, 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 win, lose, 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 lose. So I just think Frank, more than the players, Frank is the one that's going to give us, because I don't know that another year of what we had was going to make that any better in hindsight, right?
I'd also argue, I think he has been the beneficiary, though, of a couple of quality signings.
Yes,
Us being able to hold up that ball consistently is a massive outlet for us. You know, it means we can sustain our attacks a lot more. But also, Paulini in that midfield has brought a presence. As much as and hard as people tried last year in the midfield, they were just cutting us open like knife through butter. You know, it was embarrassing. Whereas with Paulini, he's got the nous, he's got the experience, he pulls down moves, he's always in the right place to break up play, he protects that back line. So I agree with you in terms of the tactics and that Frank has put in place. I would argue no one's moaning about the high line that Frank is employing right now, you know, with this back line, and no one's moaning about the fullbacks bombing forward either, that they're doing in this system either. It's just, I think he's got the center of it absolutely spot on, and that's the key. If you have the midfield and your two centre backs absolutely spot on as one good unit, you can allow your fullbacks to go and affect play and stuff like that. So along with the tactics, I also think the new additions have been absolutely huge, because last year a lot of times we were losing the ball in that forward line because none of them could really hold up the ball. None of them had a bit of class, but also in that midfield, we would just walk through. So I also think the additions have had a massive impact on us as well on the football pitch.
We're jumping on what
to add to that. Just to add to that with Frank and the difference between Ange and, you know, I love Ange's philosophy, but it is like, it's almost like an honest man's philosophy where it's like, you know what, we're going to go in there and we're going to play this way and we're just going to go out at you. And, you know, this is the way we're going to play. You know, it's the way we are, mate. You know, it's who we are. It's just, that's how he is, bro. And while with Frank he's not going to give you that chance. He's a tactician. If he can find a weakness in your team, he's going to exploit it. And he's going to try to protect the weaknesses in his team. You know what I mean? That's like he adjusts his team for every game. How we played against Burnley was very different to how we play against City, to how we played against PSG. And that's how I think that's what we're going to see this season. We're going to see Spurs where, yes, we're always going to be pressing. We're always going to be looking to get the ball in the opponent's half. The fundamentals is going to be there, but how we approach it, how we set up, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I've noticed, and we said this with Steve and with Dave, is Thomas Frank's been here since summer, but it doesn't feel like he's a new coach to us. He feels like he's part of the team and he's been here for a long. It just feels normal.
He settled in very well.
You kind of watch him and you don't think, oh, it's a brand new manager. Let me see it just feels as though you've always been watching him, and he just feels like he is a Tottenham man and he's the Tottenham manager, and it's just a progression of time. And, you know, we sit here and think, right, he's had 3 or 4 games with us and each time it's been different. But
he really feels like a Spurs manager. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like just looking at him, he seems like a Spurs manager.
Yeah, he just feels as though he's kind of one of the lads already. You know, you don't sit here and think, shit, it was only last season that Ange Postecoglou was our manager. You think, yeah, Ange was our manager in the past. Oh shit, it was only last season. It just feels as though he's been here for a long time, and the squad is already set up to how he wants to play. They understand what he wants.
Yeah,
and it just feels so very different that it feels like it's a long-term thing already.
especially with the way you hear the players, how they're taking the way some of the Spurs players are already speaking about him, but you can also see it on the pitch, how they're replicating what he's asking them to do. He's managing to get like really talented players to work their nuts off going backwards. You can see everyone is really buying into what he's asking them to do. And the more, they keep seeing the results of it on the football pitch, the more buy-in, the more belief they're going to get. And I think it's absolutely spot on. I think back to what Marcelo was saying as well. I think, look, for me, with Thomas Frank coming in here, I already knew he was going to make us defensively better. I already knew he was going to improve us from set pieces. My big thing was, is he going to go after teams in terms of going press them? And is he going to be a bit more attack-minded than what he was at Brentford? And I would argue that's where he's given me the biggest surprise. He is sending our players to go and press that ball. Yep. No one has really been expecting it. He is trying to play a bit more of a, I know it's hard after last week, but a bit more of a possession-based game, and also with the press, it's like, it's not as relentless as it was under Ange Postecoglou, where it's like one goes, the next goes. It's sort of targeted. It's like, right, if they have the ball over here, sit off them. If as soon as it gets there, go. And there's just little smart things that he's implemented, that I think has really sort of helped them hit the ground running. Because someone like me was all about, well, he can't just copy and paste Brentford ball. He is going to have to do something a little bit more at Tottenham Hotspur. We've seen what Nuno, tried to copy and paste Wolves ball. He was out here in October. And that's where my biggest surprise has been with Thomas Frank. We're not a counter-attacking team. We are a team that goes after teams. And that's the big surprise for me with Thomas Frank. Fair play to him. He's completely got buy-in off me. I'm completely devoted to him now.
Do you think, though, with the system Ange tried to implement, that it was... When I say too complicated, I don't mean complicated as in it was, so much, but it was just too far. Whereas,
do you know what it is, sorry?
Yeah, but Thomas Frank seems to have come in and kind of simplified it.
In order to play Ange Postecoglou's way, you need a certain level of player. You need players that have the know-how in games. Older, experienced players. You need a better quality of technical player, in my opinion, to be able to sustain that week in, week out and win games. Last year we had a lot of injuries, but also a lot of youngsters, and that naivety in games came back to cost us. As good as Bergvall was, how many times did he give away the ball deep? They scored off the back of it, cost us games. Some of the younger lads, as hard as they tried, but when games are in the balance, that's when it came back to bite us. And you cannot have that amount of youngsters trying to play Ange Postecoglou's football. It really is like that level, like the way he's asking them to play is every player nearly has to be perfect. You can't really make mistakes. You need a certain caliber of player to play that way.
You do, but the argument against that is that you needed the youngsters with the energy and the stamina to be able to do that game. But what Thomas Frank seems to have done is come in and kind of simplified things and gone back to, look, if we don't concede, we've only got to score one to win. Whereas Ange Postecoglou's system was, we've got to score 3 or 4 to win because they might score against us. So that's the difference, that you've kind of now, you've got a manager that is playing players how they're supposed to play. So your defenders are defending, your attackers are attacking, your midfielders are either attacking or defending, which is the way, in theory, football is meant to be for the positions that they're playing. And that's why I think with Thomas Frank, he's come in and he's kind of just said, right, I'll play to your strengths.
That's exactly right.
And I think that's where football is heading. I think that whole Pep system, it's
we say when he was at the last club, he was quite defensive. Well, that's maybe because of the players he had. A good manager should adapt to the players he's got
100%.
to be able to get the best out of them. So Thomas Frank's come to us, which on paper, our players are a level above what he had before. So therefore, he plays a different system.
Right. And I think it's important to, I was going to say it's important to remember that under Ange Postecoglou, his system didn't necessarily benefit certain players just by the style in which he wanted to play. And I think it actually put him it put him in a position of weakness because he couldn't overcome. And because of that, the continuity from game to game to game to game to game was completely different. They would look good one week, and then on Wednesday in the Europa League, they would look absolutely terrible. And then again on the following Sunday. And there was no rhythm. There was no rhythm to how that they played. As a matter of fact, I would probably go so far as to say that the messaging wasn't there. It didn't look like the players had confidence in each other from match to match to match. And then all of a sudden, you get in a guy who's who sets the expectation level from day one. I think players know exactly where they stand. And because of it, it's brought this team together to the point where, the expectation level now is every single time that they step on the pitch, they're expected to win, right? And that confidence level is something that you can see it from week to week. That like this team just feels like they're better than everybody that they play, that they step on the pitch against. It's something that's completely different.
Well, the more you lose games, I mean, the more you go hiding, the less confidence you have in yourself. And I think we've seen that for large parts last season. What we're seeing right now off the back of the Europa League win and the way we sort of start the season is everybody's confident. You don't look. The running joke is we always get off to we usually get off to a first 10 games sort of a decent run. How we would cope. When the fixtures start coming in thick and fast, and I think that would be the true test. But right now, I would argue what Frank is producing looks like it will withstand that test to a certain degree. I just want to take a couple more comments here from the people tuning in, and then we'll get you guys back in, because I want to know people's opinion on, based off what we're seeing now, how far people think Thomas Frank can actually take this at Tottenham. But Rooty Toot says, such a shame we couldn't see him play today. It's the international break next, though, so perhaps to his advantage to have 2 weeks on Frank's coaching beforehand. What I would say is he not going away with Holland, so he won't have, the 2 weeks at Hotspur away, will he? He'd sort of just be dropping his bags off and flying off again. But, in theory, he will have a few days with Thomas Frank before the West Ham game and over the next couple of days as well. Tony Southfield says, afternoon all, 3 out of 3, good performance, please. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Harris Army. Big up, Berto. He says the game's gone with the referees on the microphones. Stevie Fraser, I'm confident. Never a good sign, but should we worry? We always lose before the international break. That's one of my concerns, Stevie. But look, we've got Thomas Frank in charge. Let's see if he can, get it over the line. AK Shakes says, big up, lads. Big up, Dave. Andrew, come on, you Spurs. We've also got Marcus, Mad COYS in the house. Big up the Irish Hotspur. How are we doing? Come on, you Spurs. Buzzing, just waiting for the game, my man. We've got J-Mac. I love what Frank is doing, as it's more balanced. Reminds me of Poch. Kev G says, Frank's not known as the professor for no reason. We've also got We Are Spurs TV says, big up. Good to see you. We've got Geek Jim says, Spurs announcement. After careful diligence, we have appointed Drew Zilla to be our Dutch interpreter for the coming season after amazing results on Xavi signing day. We also have Butter Pants says, hello all. Big up Dave Marcelo, Drew, Steve, and Soren. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you.
Big up, Spud.
Dark Sung G says, don't forget we bought the coaches Frank wanted. And that's absolutely crucial as well. I think with Postecoglou, he's asking a set of coaches that don't really know his style, his philosophy to sort of implement, at Tottenham Hotspur. And if your coaches don't really grasp it, then you see what we've seen on the pitch last season, and they can't really coach it, then it's hard. Whereas with Frank, bringing in his backroom staff is key, absolutely key, because they're a lot of the ones that do the work for him behind the scenes in terms of bringing up the analysis and finding the clips for them to talk about and stuff like that. If you actually go and watch Sky Sports, A Day in the Life, or A Day with Thomas Frank at Brentford, you actually get a good insight to how his backroom staff operate, how much trust he has in them, and how much they do for him to be able to make his whole thing effective. So that was absolutely key on this one, Dark Song G. Absolutely spot on. It's good to see Spurs actually start to do that. I'd argue if they'd done it with Jose Mourinho and let Conte bring in more of his guys, maybe we would have seen better results off the back of it. But big up Dark Song G. But I mean, guys, after big results against PSG, Burnley, City, and some statement signings, are we looking at a Spurs side now that can genuinely challenge for the top 4? Or is it too early to dream? Because, coming into the season, I would have probably sat there and said, look, we can get inside the top 10, from where we finished last season. I'll take it. But looking at the start we've got off to and looking at some of the signings we've made, I think we could make a push for that top 4 with what I'm seeing so far. Am I deluded?
No, you're not. Because you know what, David? People forget. I know that Ange Postecoglou last season and the Premier League was horrific. But we also forget we literally suffered a plague with our squad, man. You know what I mean? Our starting 11 and our bench literally all injured. We can't forget that. That's not gonna let's pray to God that doesn't happen this season. It's probably not gonna happen. And when Ange did have his full fit squad in his first season, people forget we finished 5th. And we've added on to this squad. We've made it better. If this squad was able to get 5th 2 seasons ago, I guarantee you we can get top 4, especially with Xavi Simons coming in. You
I think
know,
you raise a
it's
fair point.
people like I think last season we're looking at it a bit too much. It was an anomaly. A lot of things happened. A lot of things did not go our way. That does happen in the Premier League. Sometimes you are just unlucky with injuries. Um, and I don't think it's going to happen again. And I think we're going to see a much stronger Spurs in the Premier League. Because if you look at it, bro, if you look at the last 6 years, we have actually been more consistent in the Premier League than Chelsea and United and all these, most of these other teams. Chelsea, other than last season, they were finishing what, eighth. With Graham Potter, I think
Yeah.
they finished like 10th. They were really more of a, kind of in that mid-table spot. And now with Maresca, they kind of, got to that top 4, spot. But Spurs, with Conte, we finished 4th. With Ange, we finished 5th. And then, the Conte season, we finished, what was it, 7th. So we've been around that top 6 side, for a bit now. We've been competing for that top 4 side. It was just last season was just absolute nightmare in the Premier League. And it was very unlucky, I think. I don't think it's gonna happen again.
There is absolutely no reason that we should not. I mean, top 4, top 5, definitely. There's no reason, because I think that the main priority this season again will be getting into Champions League again next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is the remit to Frank. It's got to be Champions League. Do what you can in the cups, but domestic cups I don't think will be a priority this season. And I don't think...
Is that right, though, Soren?
I'm not saying it's
surely
right.
we should be targeting more silverware. That's
Yeah,
what you're in football for at the end of the day.
The thing is, if you... unless we another, say, 2-3 players in, the squad isn't that deep again. We've lost some players till at least Christmas and beyond with injuries. And to me, I think the remit will be you get in that Champions League, we have a good run in the Champions League, and we have as good a run as we possibly can in the league, because we all know last year wasn't good enough, and it's not going to be sustained this year. Anywhere outside the top 6 will not be good enough this year. We've got to at least get Europa League. But to me, it's all about Champions League again next year. And that therefore means we have got to prioritise League and then Champions League. And we know that's
I'm
what
right
we're
with you.
prioritize. Yeah. And
Yeah.
look,
And you know what? Sorry.
yeah, I'm not saying that we're going to go out of the League and FA Cup at the first rounds. I'm not saying that we just give them up. But I would argue that priority is league position, Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, both. Probably League Cup above FA Cup because it's an easier one to win in theory. But the Premiership and League Cup will be priority this year.
I agree with you. I think this year it is going to be key about doing very well in the Premier League as well as we can, finish as high as we can, and having a long run. I know we want trophies, and I do want trophies. Personally, I'm more with Dave. I think we should go for a cup. I think we should at least try to go for one cup this season. But I think a strong finish to the Premier League is going to be critical, because we do need to. The Premier League is our bread and butter. And last season, we can't have that happen again. We have to finish in the top 6. We have to remind everybody that we are a top 6 side. And I would say top 4 or top 5, I guess, because we get Champions League with top 5, is critical, because it's going to give us consistency. And right now, if you're looking at Chelsea, United, there seems to be a little bit of lacking consistency. And same thing as Spurs, we lack consistency. If we can just get a little bit of consistency, we can also, I think, bring in players of higher quality, because they're going to look at it and they're going to be like, you know what, this team just won the Europa League. They just finished strong in the Premier League. The season before that, they were doing well in the Premier League. I'm going to come here, you know what I mean? Because this is the club that's consistent, you know what I mean? That's where players want to go.
Was
Well, on
one
top
of
of that,
the
Marcelo,
ideas... Sorry,
just
go on,
real quick. On top of that, what is it we always hear from players? I want Champions League. I want Champions League. If we're not in the Champions League next season, I'm
It's
not
where the
saying we
elite
won't
players
sign
go, bro.
players. It's
Mhm.
important to players though to be in the Champions League.
Exactly. It's critical, and also I think just also competing for the league, because if you're in the top 4, right, as a player, and you're only like, let's say 10, 15 points away from the title, right? Or 20 points, and you're a big player, bro. You can look at that team and you can be like, you know what, I can be that difference. I can be that difference between those little margins, and
I
yeah.
get what you guys are saying, but for me, the reason why a lot of our best players have walked away from Tottenham in years gone by is because the lack of trophies. They want to win trophies, and for me, when your captain is all about winning trophies, for me, I don't think we should be sitting here saying, "Oh, well, we should be targeting this, we should be targeting that." Sure, that's why we got rid of Ange, because he targeted one competition over another. Bringing in Frank, I thought the whole reason was so we could get back competing across the board. I get what you're saying. There is going to come a point where if you've got a cup game and you've got a Champions League game, Premier League game coming up, you are going to put out a younger side or a change side in one of the cup games. But just because he's changing side, it doesn't mean he's deprioritizing that competition. That manager's still putting out a team that he still thinks is good enough to be able to go and navigate that game. So for me, I don't think we should take the pressure off them in terms of domestic cups. You win a Europa League so you can kick on and go and bring in more silverware. It's what we get clowned about as Spurs fans, the lack of it. So for me, that was the big thing last year. And I was hoping that by winning the Europa League, we would sort of get back to the mentality of, no, we should be looking to compete across all 4 competitions, not going back to where we were under Pochettino, because that's what we've done under Pochettino. We prioritized the Premier League and Champions League and sort of, to a large degree, didn't really prioritize the domestic cups. And at the end of the day, we learned from the Pochettino era, yeah, you can be fun to watch and all, but if you don't win trophies, it hurts. And that's the name of the game at the end of the day. So for
I
me,
definitely agree.
I don't think we should be sitting here saying we should be deprioritizing them this season. If Frank is as good as he says, and the board back their signings and believe there's game changers, as they say, that's bringing in strength and depth, which means then we should be able to compete even further.
Yeah, but the problem
I'm just saying,
the problem with that is, Dave, that you're looking at a squad that has a big drop off from the first 11-12 to the next 11-12. Now,
injuries.
Going into next season, I would argue the fact of we have to compete on all 4 levels. This season, it's kind of, you're almost given a pass because we have just won a trophy. It's not as imperative this season to carry on and win another trophy. This season is all about stability. It's all about making sure
setting in the tactics.
Yeah, getting there. Top 4, top 5. And where you say players are always moaning about not winning silverware, there are a lot of those players will want to play in Champions League rather than Europa League. They want to play Barcelona's, Real Madrid's, Bayern Munich's, PSG's, these type of teams, rather than, I know we're playing Bodo again, but, rather than that type of caliber. And the thing is, there is nothing to say. I mean, I know we're not going to win Champions League probably, but, a good run in Champions League. Well, I know. And I did say yesterday or the day before that, we will retain a European trophy this year. So there's only one to win, isn't there? But look, the point is, though, we have to get that mentality back where we are a very, very hard team to play. Now, with that might come success in a cup. It might bring a domestic cup. But there is no way Daniel Levy is going to say to Thomas Frank, I want another trophy this year. So if that means FA Cup, League Cup, then we can deprioritize the league and come 8th, 9th, or 10th this year. It won't matter. Champions League is all that matters this year.
We have to finish in the top 4. We have to establish ourselves as the big dogs, in my opinion.
There is
trophies. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna add, trophies are important, and I think next season that should be the priority, is winning something. But we have to establish ourselves as the big dogs this season. We have to.
Did we not do that by winning Europa League? Did we not do that by winning Europa League trophy and showing everybody how
with the league finish, though, David? It did kind of. It was more of like a peppering over the cracks, in my opinion. Where this season, yes, we proved ourselves that we can win a trophy, but now I feel like we still kind of have to prove ourselves in the league. Kind of.
No, I get what you're saying, but I do feel the likes of Kudos Paulinia, Simons are signing on the dotted line because we're Europa League champions. If we didn't win the Europa League last year, our question, would we be able to lure them to this football club? And it's like, also the parade, I think, put everybody on notice how big this club really is, how big the fan base is, how big the following is.
Well,
I think having that trophy parade is what put us back in, reminded everybody of how big this club is, and has actually put us on the big club status, not finishing top fours and that every single year.
The club has always been known as a trophy club, and I get that, but it's about money now. And if you are not playing at the highest level, you know, how many teams these days are just a trophy club? And when I say just a trophy club, I'm talking of, say, only FA Cup or League Cup. The ones that are winning it are competing for the league. They are the top class of teams. And for us to be a top class of teams, we have to be up there in the top 5 or 6 minimum of the league. And that's why this season alone, and I'm not talking long term, I'm talking this season purely, we have to prioritize the league. Now, trophies are bigger than top 4, right? So how come everybody's moaning that we've won a trophy, but we've finished shit in the league then? Yeah, the amount of fans 2 years ago that were saying, doesn't matter where we finish as long as we win a cup. Well, we did that last season, and you're all moaning that we finished 17th. And
it has to be a right balance.
There has to be a right balance. Now,
you can't just finish 10th and then win an FA Cup and then expect big players to come.
I can guarantee you,
you gotta be at the top.
Well, I can guarantee if we finish decent in the league this year, everyone will be pivoting back to, well, this is boring. I want trophies. I want to win something again. I guarantee you.
You can never satisfy everybody, David. But the issue is, when you look at a club, right? You know, if you're just finished like United, right? United won trophies, but look at them. You know what I mean? They've won trophies, but it's just the league is the bread and butter. And if you're just winning these FA Cups and these other like League Cups, and you're not finishing well in the league, it's gonna bring instability within the club, because at the end of the day, the Premier League is the bread and butter. And when you do well in the Premier League, you're also going to do better in these cups competitions. You know what I mean? If you look at all the top clubs in the Premier League, they all do well outside. You know what I mean? Like, I know Arsenal lost the semifinals, but look how far they went. You know what I mean? It's when you do better in the Premier League, you are going to do better in the cups. If you look,
to jump on top of that, Marcelo, if you're playing 38 games in the Premiership and you are, say, win 1, lose 1, like we kind of did, if to go in the cup, the League Cup, I think you have to win, is it 6, 7, 8 games to win the trophy? Well, if they're the only 6, 7, 8 games you win that year, it's going to be a shit year. Whereas if you're winning week in, week out in the Premier League,
it's nice.
It's nice.
I'm not gonna be nice. It is nice.
You take a loss and get knocked out of the cup.
Trophies are nicer.
Yeah, I mean, but when
trophies is nicer. No, listen.
Yeah,
David, that night in Bilbao, bro, when I was at the bar, I cried when that final. I cried. I barely cry, bro, but I went to my friend and I hugged him and I cried like a baby, bro. But the thing is, and those moments are extremely important, but you also got to think of the other sensible part where you can't risk instability just for that moment. You know what I mean? There needs to be stability in that club. And finishing 17th, bro, it did kind of hurt us. You know what I mean? Other players did reject us because we finished 17th. You know what I mean? I know Simons came, bro, but a lot of players rejected us because of where we finished in the league. And
we say that, but then in the other breath, people say we've had one of the best windows we've had in about 20 years. So
of course, and it is because of the Europa League, but you also got to remember the Europa League is also a much bigger trophy than the FA Cup and the League Cup, in my opinion. The Europa League brings you Champions League, European legacy. It is a bigger trophy than if we finish 10th and win the League Cup. We need stability in the Premier League, in my opinion. We just need it.
To add to that quickly, Marcelo, and I'm sorry for butting in yet again, but we have Champions League this season. If we didn't have Champions League this season, I don't think we'd have got Xavi Simons. I don't think we'd have got...
Yeah, but why did we get Champions League? Because we won the
Europa.
We
won the Europa.
Right, and that's where the consistency starts, is off the back of that trophy, right? And fair play to your guys' opinion, but I think stability has already been established at this club. Just with with Thomas Frank and the expectations level that he has already set with this club. That being said, consistency is something that this team has been missing over the last 5 years. And the fact is, what does consistency mean? It's off the back of the trophy that we just won last year, which means what? More trophies, right? There is a way that you can manage the Premier League and make sure that you're going to be in a good position at the end of the year while still competing for the domestic cups on top of the Premier League and on top of the Champions League, right? Just because you have it doesn't mean you have to de-emphasize it. If anything, de-emphasizing the two domestic cup competitions does not breed consistency or stability. It just means we're reverting back to what Ange did last season, which was de-emphasize certain competitions just so we can chase a trophy. Consistency means being competitive in all four competitions and at least trying to get to Wembley in 2 of those.
But the thing is with that, though, Steve, that, like we say, look, we've just won the European trophy. This season is about building for what's to come. And if you look at it, if we've got to get Champions League again next season, we don't want Europa Cup. We want Champions League next season. We want top 4. And then the season after that, you go again because your squad is stronger again. And you go again, you add to it, and then you go for all 4 trophies rather than, say, making sure you're in the Champions League and the Premiership. Because, look, if we don't finish Champions League again next season, again, Daniel Levy's got the excuse not to spend any money. And it will come. Whereas if you're in the Champions League and say we finish 4th this year, and it's a very tight race between all 4. Pardon?
I said, how did that work under Pochettino? By routinely getting into the Champions League. How were those windows?
Hold on.
Let's not go there.
We can't just routinely. Hold on. That's not what we're saying, though.
I know.
We can't just routinely go and just get Champions League and just not win anything in the future. What we're saying is this season, it is Frank's first season. He has to set in the tactics. He has to get the players, and he has to get the players to, fit his system, his different tactics, and everything. And there's gonna, guys, I know we're early in the project. There's gonna be a little blunders with Frank, because he is gonna try new things, and sometimes the players are not gonna get it. We're gonna have to be a little patient. So I think this season it's just about getting stability, and then the next season with Frank, it's about winning. You know what I mean?
I do hear the argument you and Sharon are making. I do understand that, but I think at Tottenham Hotspur, you are expected as a manager to compete across all 4 fronts, and that's from the fan base, and that is from the chairman.
Correct.
At the end of the day, we could sit here and say, "Oh, well, he should prioritize the league." I can guarantee you now, if we go out of the cup, fans will go ballistic. Everyone was willing to give Postecoglou time. As soon as he went out to Fulham in the first season of the Carabao Cup, fans started turning on him from there. In reality, at Tottenham Hotspur, to Stevie's point, consistency is you've got a challenge for all 4 fronts. That is the expectation. But look, I don't want to get bogged down on this.
But we're not talking about going out in the first round. That is not what I said. What I said is you do not prioritize it. I mean, look, if we get to the semi-final, then you prioritize it, or your quarterfinal, But what I'm saying is that you don't necessarily have to put. I mean, obviously it depends on the draw, but if say, I mean, I think we've got Doncaster in the cup, haven't we? Well, you don't need to put your first 11 starting players against that team. That's the kind of when I say prioritizing. I'm not saying you put all the kids in there so we're going to lose. I'm just saying you've got to your first 11, your first 11 have got to be there for your Premiership and for your Champions League. That's where they want to play. You give. I mean, and I'm not talking about, like Ange did in his first season where you make 11 changes. I'm not talking about that even. But priority-wise, until it gets to the point where you think, actually, we could win this, then it becomes a different matter. Because, but if you've got, say, Doncaster on Wednesday night in the Cup, but then you've got Liverpool on Saturday, you've got to prioritise Liverpool on Saturday.
I get you.
That's when I'm saying prioritise. I'm not talking about, right, let's go out of the first round. We don't need to play these matches. You've got to be clever in the way you play these matches.
Fair. Well, look, we'll take a couple of comments here from the chat and then we'll kick on. And I want to get Drewski back involved. I want to ask him, should we make changes to today's lineup, or should we go with the same 11? The old adage, you don't change a winning team. Dermotron says, trophies are bigger than top four. Big up, Dermotron. I presume this is Dermotron. Sorry about the usernames, but big up, Dermo. Look, I agree with you on that one. Good to see you in the building. William Webb says, everyone is making excuses for Frank 3 games in. I can't see us with running top 5 or winning a cup this season. Ange knew we never had the squad to compete in every event. Signing 3 players is good. Look, I think there should be expectations of Frank. I don't think we shouldn't be putting any on him. William Webb, absolutely spot on. Gazzaro says most fans moan whatever. They are not happy unless they are not happy. Fair point. We've also got Aid Parker in the house. Tottenham fans are intelligent and stupid at the same time. We are at the right position now to financially show our muscle. Then we've got Sukhotai. Sukhotai says, trophies are everything. That's making history. I would rather finish 8th and win the League Cup every year and the UEFA Cup every few seasons than some top 4 and win nothing. And then my old lads in the house, good to see you. Nice picture of the dog there, by the way. Why did you change the picture? He says, we can finish top 5 and win the FA Cup easy peasy with Tommy's troops. Come on, you Spurs. I have no doubt you like this quote after the PSG game about the special operations and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that got me going. It's like the guy thinks he's in the SAS. And Faz Radfar says, are we 2 top signings away from a big success? I mean, Drew, we'll let you answer this one for Faz Radfar. How many signings are we away off becoming contenders?
3, maybe 4, if I'm absolutely honest. I think we probably need somebody left side of defence. We need another fullback. We need a left winger, and arguably, I say we need. I don't know. I'm still torn. I think we still need a better striker, but I'm not trying to diss on the 2 that we've got, because I think at the moment they're doing their job. And if Richie stays the way he is,
but you're right.
You're not
pound
for pound redemption arc, Drew.
I mean, a little bit, right? I mean, I'm not going to dog on the guy. Like, for what he's been asked to do at the beginning of the season, 2 fantastic goals. I think he's laid on a goal. He's working his arse off. That's all you can ask for in a striker. Do you know what I mean? You could go and buy Benjamin Sesko for 90 million, and he could be a rubber duck and do absolutely all for the first 2 games. So, you got to pick and choose. But I think at the moment, for what's out there and absolutely available that isn't going to break the bank, I think you stick with what you got for now. Maybe see if something comes up in January or next year. But he's going to be playing absolutely out of his skin because the World Cup. My concern with him is, just hoping he doesn't pick up an injury and things like that. That's my concern. But I think in a Thomas, I think he'll do a job. And I think in a Thomas system, I said way back when we were trying to get Mbumo, who created 200 plus crosses last year. I was like, if we get that guy and you put Richie on the end of some of those crosses, I mean, that's going to be lights out for some teams. So Richie is always capable of doing his job. You just got to get him in the position to do it, and ideally give him less time to think about it.
Yeah, less time he has to think about it, the better.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I would say 3 or 4 oven ready. Big up, Adrian. Oven ready players. Premier proven, or at least top league proven.
No, I think I'd go along with that. I think, look, another 2 good windows. I think Faz Radfar, 1 or 2 sneaky ones in January, along with a couple next summer.
Yeah,
I think, and we combine with a good campaign this year. There's no reason why, you can't maybe put a sneaky outside bet on Tottenham Hotspur heading into next season. Big up Faz Radfar. Look, what I will say is, Faz, we're just moving in the right way with the signings. But Drew, I do want to come back to you as well with the other with the other question I have for you. Because lineups are out in about 5 minutes' time, if my timing is correct. Do you think we're going to see an unchanged 11 today? The old sayings, you don't change a winning side. Because, I put on my predicted lineup, I went with the same 11 again. But people in the comments were saying, Dave, you're mad. Are you going to see Gray in here or Bergvall maybe thrown in here today? What do you think Frank will do with the lineup?
I wonder if, I could see it going both ways. Number one, I can see wanting to keep momentum. It's a home game. You're going into an international break. So why not actually just put your foot on the throat a little bit and just make sure He's already alluded to the fact that Polini is playing really, really well, and he's not even fully match fit yet. So there's the argument that you play him until he gets match fit. There's also the argument, you know, how close is he to this red zone that coaches talk about? Is it maybe worth, you know, being as it is a home game, do you potentially revert back to the Burnley where, you know, let's face it, the kids did really well. So I don't know. This is the part of being a top class coach and having to balance all that stuff. The one thing I will say, just I want to touch on it because you two or you lot are all having to say about it. I think the only way you truly know how to win trophies or learn how to become a winning team that wins trophies is by winning trophies. And I think if you discount the League Cup and the FA Cup too much, you run the risk of automatically losing the ability to learn how to win trophies. So, 100%. And looking back, like, you know, you look at your Liverpools and your Manchester Cities, and to a certain extent your Manchester Uniteds back in the day, the one cup that they set out to win first was the League Cup, because there's nothing better to roll up to somebody in March already being a winner of a cup. Like, people look at you differently, and I think if you can, and this comes down to club philosophy, right? The reason that Uniteds and your Cities and everything are so good at doing that sort of thing is because they build a really strong squad. They have a really good nucleus of kids, and they can do this. Oh, what, we're playing Doncaster over in the second and third round? Okay, well, we can do 4 stars, 6 kids, and a keeper. And then you move on to the next round. You do enough to get through to those rounds, because more often than not, you would see those things, and you would see your Manchester Cities. You wouldn't see most of the stars till it got to the semi-final, and then it was right. Okay, and to as Soren alluded to, okay, so there's actually a genuine chance of winning this. All right, so now you start pulling out some big guns and you win. And the thing with that is the big guns are happy because they're winning trophies. The young kids are happy because they're getting into teams and they're learning how to win trophies. You're learning how to play with different people all the time, because it's not just your 11 and then all of a sudden you're having to change, and now we're looking at 9 changes and you've got a disjointed team that don't really know how to play together. So I think the whole point of this competing on 4 fronts is that you build the team, you build the squad, you use the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup to nurture the nucleus, so that when it does get to February, you go, all right, we actually got a chance to win the Carabao. Okay, boom, you win the Carabao Cup. How many times did Manchester City win it and then just not breeze the rest of the season? And I know I'm looking at, you know, Manchester City that spent a lot of money and they were class players, but you still had your youngsters coming in and out of that team. And I don't think that you can build that sort of momentum if you do the whole 9-10 changes, second, third round, nothing more to play for. Okay, let's try and get high. You know, we're never going to win the league, but we'll try and get as far as we can to try and qualify for, you know, for a Champions League. I just think that's the wrong way of going about it. And the problem is that I think Levy has been going about it that way. And I think the point of taking a step back and turning around and saying we want to compete on all 4 fronts and getting a coach in that wants to actually coach players, who even alluded to in the press conference yesterday, I don't like this transfer business. I'd rather be out there. I'd rather be making these players better. You get better by winning cups. You don't win cups by, you know, forgetting them and saying we just need top, you know, we just want this, we just want that. One leads to the other, leads to the other. And if you build a big enough squad to win the Carabao Cup, then more often than not, history says you then start winning other things and it becomes sort of second nature. You know, so I just wanted to make that point, because I think I don't think any one of those things. I think you have to have the whole thing. It has to
guess
be
what?
Correct.
Just quickly, I just want to shout out to Dan Hotspur Hood. You know, I think he's finished up, you know, his show over there, and he sent, you know, his followers over here. So welcome in, everybody. Really appreciate it. And big up, Dan. Very, very kind of you, my man. Very, very kind.
Thank you.
Fasire 1882 has grabbed himself a channel membership. Really appreciate the support, buddy. Matthew thinks we're going to win 3-0 today. Good to see you, Matthew. And we also have Nick Amped in the house. Morning, Dave. Morning, lads. Big up from LA. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. But sorry, guys, go on. I just wanted to say thank you to Dan.
On the back of that, Drew, is that's all very well and good, but at the beginning of the season, you kind of have to have a priority list. And any good manager and any good runs team will change as it goes along. So at the beginning of the season, you've got to say our priority this year is a top 5 finish because we want Champions League again next year. And we want a good run in the Champions League. But if the opportunity comes to win a League Cup, to win an FA Cup, then we go for that at the same time. And yes, exactly what we were saying earlier, we maybe just didn't put it the same way, that in the League Cup, your priority isn't to play your top 11 players to make sure you get through. You play a team that is good enough to get through. And you progress. And all of a sudden, if you find yourself in a quarterfinal, you sit there to yourself and think, do you know what? We could win this. So therefore, you do start putting in your top team. But if you had to choose between a League Cup final and a Champions League Cup final, which one are you picking? Or if you said, right, you can have a League Cup or you can finish first in the Premiership, which one are you picking?
Lineup is out.
Yep, the lineup is out.
The lineup is out. Vicario is in goals. Romero and Van de Ven are centre back. Spence is left back. Where's Porro?
Right there.
Porro is right back. Richard.
I hate this whole number thing, man.
Yeah, Bentancur, Sarr in midfield, Johnson off the left. So it's unchanged from last week, basically. It's the exact same 11 as last week. On the bench, it's Kinski, Danzo, Tell, Udogi, Gray, Bergwall, Solomon, Udabur, and Davies. No Solanke. Interesting. Wow. No Dominic Solanke on the bench today, guys. So, yeah, just recap on the lineup for Carrier and goals. Pedro Porro right back, Jed Spence left back, with Romero and Van de Ven centre back. Then you've got Paulini and Bentancur as your 2 holders, with Sarr playing as the number 10, Johnson off the left, Kudus off the right, with Richarlison in the middle, and no Solanke on the bench today against his former club. I can only imagine or presume that means he sort of picked up a knock or an injury of some sort. So interesting, but look, we'll go through the panel. We'll get everyone's thoughts on the lineup. Thomas Frank going unchanged, and get your thoughts ahead of today's game and your score prediction. We'll start with you, Stevie.
Oh, I absolutely love this the starting 11. They're going strong, knowing that we're on the cusp of an international break, and he's actually pushing for the full 9 points, and it's actually refreshing to see it. The interesting thing is for me at least, is wondering exactly how Bournemouth is actually going to attack this team. And if there's anything, the last 3 or 4 matches has proven to me that we're an absolute bitch to play against, considering we're so compact and organized. And the question for me is, how Evan Nielsen and a guy like Semenyo are going to try to break down this back line, because you would probably assume we're going to see the exact same thing we saw last week, where we're essentially going to push Bournemouth to the wings. And of course, we have incredible 1v1 defenders on the outside as well too. So me personally, it's not it's not that we're going to win. It's going to be how much we're going to win by, and whether or not we're going to be able to keep a clean sheet, because I actually think we will. So I'm going to say 3-0 Spurs.
3-0 Spurs. Absolutely love that.
Love it.
And Stevie, I'm going to put your channel in the chat there for people to get across to as well. Absolutely love that. We'll head down to you, Sarah, next. I believe you want to speak a little bit about Solomon being on the bench.
I was quite surprised. It's an interesting one. Does that mean we're keeping him and he's going to be our left winger, or in contention for a left wing? But no, look, first team, no surprises. You get that team. This is obviously the strongest team he feels he's got, which is good to see that he already knows probably his strongest 11 with the squad that is available at the moment. Same as Steve, we both said it the other night, 3-0. I see a clean sheet as well. Yep. And I think Richie will score. Wouldn't surprise if Johnson puts a tap in. And I think it'll be a good game. It'll be a solid performance. And come on, you Spurs.
Absolutely love that. So that's 2 out of 2 predicting us to go top of the league by the end of today. Marcelo, we'll go on to you, my man. I mean, what's your what's your thoughts ahead of today's game, lineup and score prediction?
You know what, Dave? The sun is out. The day is looking great. I think we're gonna go pick some cherries, bro. I'm going 3-0, bro. We're gonna pick some cherries, bro. We're gonna smash these, man. They're gonna come. They're gonna come into that Spurs stadium, bro. They're gonna hear that Xavi Simons. Everybody singing, bro. Everybody going wild. The whole crowd, singing the songs, singing the tunes. 60,000 people. Forget about it, bro. We're gonna come in and we're gonna rock them cherries, bro. 3-0 to the Spurs. I'm sure there's going to be moments where it's going to be tough, where they're going to come at us, they're going to press us. But I think with Van de Ven, Romero, that brick wall defense, bro, they're going to smash them. Paulina's going to break them, and then we're just going to finish them off with Brendan Johnson and Richarlison, bro. I'm going with Richarlison with a goal, Kudus with 2 assists, and Johnson with 2 goals.
Ooh, Johnson with 2. Look, it'd be interesting to see if that front line right now, it's producer and Kudus, Richarlison, and Johnson, and look, I would argue Bournemouth's back line has been decimated by the summer transfer window. Kirkesh, Huyson, Sabani, they've had a change in goalkeeper. There's definitely an opportunity for us to get at these today. If we can just stop Semenyo, and it'd be interesting to see what side Semenyo plays on. I reckon he will play on Porro's side. It'd be interesting to see if we could stop him.
Yeah, you don't want Jet
in my opinion. Yeah, we win this. We stop him. We win this game, in my opinion. We will all be having cherry pie for dessert. Last but not least, onto the one and only Drewski. Drewski, what's your thoughts ahead of today's game? Let's get your score prediction. And guys, Stevie's channel is there. I've put it in there. Make sure you get across and show him some love. Also, Drewski's is here as well. Tottenham till I die. The Spurs diehards. Make sure you get across there and show these guys some love as well. They all give up their free time to come and do this. They don't get paid or anything like that. So you can just show them in kindness with a bit of love and smash that subscribe button. But Drewski, how's today's game going for me? Because usually you tend not to be too far off.
I don't know about that. I think it's going to be a home win. I think, man, I'm even tempted for another clean sheet. I really like Bournemouth, and I really like the fact that even though Iraola's lost 4 defenders, they seem to still be able to do bits. So I'm not going to say they're not dangerous. I'm worried about Semenyo, but I just think we're going to have too much, and I think we've just got momentum. And I really like our defense at the moment. So yeah. I'm going to go 3-0, and I think Richie's going to get on the score sheet again.
Another clean sheet. Oh, look, I'd absolutely take it. 3 clean sheets to start off the season with. At the end of the day, they say attacks wins you games, defense wins you league. So, it's not a bad habit to be getting into. Guys, make sure you get across and show Drew some love. His channeling is there along with Stevie's up above it as well. I want to say a big up to Belgian Hotspur. A long time no seen. Good to see you, buddy. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. And then Bird's Eye View 72 says, come back to my comment at the end of the game. I say 5 or 6-0. Richie with a hat-trick. What a way that would be for him heading into the international break. And lastly, I just want to say a huge congratulations to Jed Spence as well, getting his England call-up, getting the recognition that I feel like he deserves. I don't know what happened to Drew there, but congratulations, Jed Spence, and hopefully he can put in another good performance today. But guys, that's it from us. It's a massive thank you to Drew, to Steve, getting out of bed nice and early for this one. A massive thank you to Marcelo as well. Also, it's great to have you back, Marcelo. It's been an absolute pleasure, my man. Really enjoyed it. And Soren, it's great that you could make it on today as well, even though you're busy guy. So thank you very much for your time. And all you guys at home as well. Really appreciate you tuning in. Because if you didn't have people tune in, wouldn't be doing this. So thank you very much. Any final words, lads?
I just want to say thank you, David. Yeah. Thank you for having us, and come on, your Spurs.
Oh, I cannot wait to get going. Well, guys, hopefully we'll be singing we're top of the league after today's game. As always, go and have a good lunch, get a nice bevy. We'll see you back here for the watch long. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Kulusevski forever.
Fucking Kulusevski forever.